Okay. Okay. So our first algo that we're going to English size is the bubble sort algorithm.
Okay.
So we have the algo already solved, and we have to figure out what it means. Like what it's actually doing. Like what is each line telling us? What does it mean? Why is it put the way it's put? That type of thing. So we want to do it in terms of if we were trying to explain this to a non-developer, they would understand what we were doing. And the
Okay.
reason behind it is if we can explain it to a non-developer, then we know what it's doing.
Yeah, exactly. You have to definitely do that with cybersecurity. They want to see something that you created and then walk them through what everything means for
Um,
sure.
Actually, I like the way I asked ChatGPT to give me an example of what describe a bubble sort, and I actually kind of like the way it described it, so I'm going to copy that. So this is what
Okay.
ChatGPT described a bubble sort as. Bubble sort is like arranging a line of guppy fish in ascending order of size. You compare adjacent fish and swap them if they are out of order. You keep doing this until the entire you keep doing this until the entire line is sorted. So basically we want it from smallest to largest.
Mm-hmm.
So that helps a little bit. So like if we were given that as our coding challenge, that would help us a little bit in terms of what the algorithm needs to complete. But what is this algorithm actually saying? Like line 6, for example, is actually saying what? Or actually we'll start with line 5. I should open up my
Okay.
see in case Fernando talks. There we go. I
Okay,
like
we've
to start at
already
the beginning. Sorry, I like to start with the beginning because
okay.
I feel like it makes more sense. So like for me, I would do something like um and actually state in plain English what is line 5 actually telling us.
Make so line 5.
I like to keep it simple.
And it has to be like as plain as English as you could possibly get.
I think it's better that way because if you can put it into plain English words, then you really do know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because you have to figure out what words match. Like I'm creating a job called bubble sort that takes a list of information to work. I guess. I mean, that kind of makes sense. I'm not sure how
Mm-hmm.
to word a parameter. That and when I say English size, that's kind of what I'm referring to. It's just like literally
Yeah.
just what is it doing?
So can can we say we like when we talk about functions, it's like we're having a set of instructions for a specific task.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like if that's one way I would want to describe it. Like
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
you know what? I was counting down from function. That's where I was messed up. I'm like, okay. I
Oh.
wasn't even paying attention to the line 5. What a dork. I'm like, okay, she wants me to start from here.
No, sorry. Okay, so line 6, like code line 6, is saying
Yeah,
what?
obviously. Well, it's saying that there's a break in the code. Well, not necessarily a break, that's HTML, but empty?
No, line 6 right here.
Oh my God, I need my glasses.
That's okay.
So, it's okay, I can move closer. So you're arranging the length of it, of how many bubbles? No, the length. See, I'm forgetting all this other stuff. Hold on. Wait, let me mute. My husband just walked in.
I think line 6, the easiest way I think I could English size it, would say we have a name called N, and this N name is equal to the length of a list.
Okay.
This is equal to the length of a, how about this? Like it's equal to the length of a, it's equal to the number of, well, like nickels in a jar.
Oh, I like that. So I think it's okay to use variable because that's in math in general, like
Okay.
general math. So I think variable is a safe word to use. And then you said setting it equal to
The number of like nickels in a jar. Right. Yeah. Because I'm trying to figure out like how much English do I like, how much do I want to break it like down into English without like saying coding language. I think it's a little tricky, like to not go super down into like just plain
yeah.
English.
No, but I like that because sometimes I can also just create a nice visual in your own head as you're walking through it as well, because it just helps you figure it out. Or maybe not nickels in a jar because we want it to be in a line. So maybe nickels in a row.
Yeah, nickels in a row. Um, and then um,
Mm.
let's see. Oof, let's see. Then we have that. We have those nickels in a row, and we are iterating through each. We're just checking each nickel one by one individually in that row.
And then I'm going to put off to the side here what it is for loop. Starting at 0, going till no longer less than n, increasing by 1 each loop. So we also have a little bit of the actual what it is there.
Okay, so like it's like English, and then you're just breaking it down, like saying what we actually have. Okay.
Yeah. Because
Right.
we can always use it as notes for ourselves later type of thing.
All right. Let's see, and then we can say every time that we are looking through each one of our items in our row, we are going to look through another list of items as well.
Okay, so what is J?
J, because I is I is currently are a nickel, right? Each nickel.
Correct.
So J can be a dime.
No, we're just sorting nickels,
We're just sorting nickels. Okay.
right?
Uh,
So if you look at the description ChatGPT gave me of what a bubble sort is, it's like arranging a line of guppy fish in ascending order of size. You compare adjacent fish, and swap them if they're out of order. So maybe in this case, we're separating them by year, and we're trying to make sure that they're in the proper year order, going from like 1900 to 2000. So what would J represent in this next for loop?
like okay, so but we're still talking like in terms of money, right? Like what would J represent?
Mm-hmm.
I guess J could represent the huh.
Oh, I wrote the for loop wrong. No, I mean describing the for loop. It's so I is equal to 0, starting at 0, until no longer less than n, but it's actually n minus 1. N minus 1. Okay, so
Trying to think it out.
I know I'm trying to think it out without actually like I want to put it into like Python tutor, but I'm trying to see it in my head.
I'm trying to think it like how would I say it in code and how can I translate it from like code language to English because I'm so
Yeah,
used to like
no,
this.
I know I'm doing the same thing in my head, so if we have this array,
Mhm.
the first loop I is going to be equal to 64.
Yeah,
Well, no, I is 0. It never actually asked for the value of I
and then
until
the inner then the inner loop we have J is equal to 0 if array of J is greater than array of J plus 1.
wait, hold on, hold on, hold on.
Equal.
Okay, so to start off with, I is 0. Then we hit this loop. J is also 0 because that's where it tells me to start. So the first loop, it is 64 greater than 64, the if statement, which it doesn't work. So it comes out of this. Oh, wait, 64 plus 1. Right? Because array J would still be 64. So is 64 greater than 64 plus 1? It's not, so it skips the if statement and then comes back
The
to
loop, right? The next iteration
of this
the
loop,
yeah.
right? Because we haven't finished this loop yet. We haven't finished all the instructions for this loop yet. So then we're on this one. So now we're on 1, which makes, let me do this so I can see what I'm doing. Whoops. So now it's J is 34. How is that? That makes no sense.
N minus I.
Is that maybe supposed to be I?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too, because if I is always 0, if I is always 0, and we don't really move to the next iteration of I, so we are done with the inner loop, then it seems
I don't
weird.
think anything's ever gonna move.
Yeah, like it just keep on comparing.
I think I messed up someplace. So let me check. Because it won't take it the other way. So unsorted array, sorted array. So let's do this and let's put it into Python tutor because I need to see it. Hmm. N is 7. Oh, duh. Yes. Okay. Sorry. Wait, what is going on? Okay, N is 7. Doc. Next. I is block 1. 0. I'm so confused. It is moving it. I don't understand how it's moving it. This did not help me at all. I need console logs. We want I and ARR I, just so I can see it. Okay. Console log. Loop 2. I want I, ARR I, J, and ARR J. Oops.
Quick question. We're trying to order it from like biggest to smallest, right?
No, smallest to biggest.
Smallest to biggest. Okay.
Yeah. So console.log in if ARR J ARR J plus 1. Oh, that's supposed to be inside there. My bad. Plus 1. I can figure out what temp is. That's easy. Okay, I think I see what these two are doing. Okay, I see what these lines are doing. So these lines I can see. So line. Okay, so line 10 is the if statement. Line 11. Creating variable temp, setting it equal to the current value at the loops index, current index. And then line 12. This was a good one. I got really confused on this one. Is saying setting
Yeah, I'm gonna try doing this as well in Notebook.
setting current value at second loops current index to that +1, meaning next index. Line 13 is setting the next index to what was value. So that makes sense. I can see that. That's literally swapping them. I just don't get the if statement.
Yeah, I thought like for the inner for loop.
Oh, I get it now. I get it now. The if statement. If current value is greater than the next index value. That's what the J plus, that's why it's J +1 inside here. It's the current index +1, its value, thus this one. It's this part I'm not seeing, I think, but I get the if statement now.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest, I was like, maybe it would be better for the for loop, for the inner for loop, if you start at the end and then work your way to the front, and then maybe that would make more sense. Because then you can just like change around the if statement and it'll do the exact same thing that's already doing now.
Right. So that for loop is starting another I just don't know why we need 2 loops. Okay, now that I understand it a little bit better, we start off, start off with 0. I is 0. I is 0. Or J is 0. Oh, okay, 0. And then so I equals 0. I is less than 7, I plus plus. That's what I wasn't seeing. J equals 0. J is less than 7 minus I, J plus plus. And then J greater than J, oops, J plus 1. And then that swaps it. So the first time we do this, I equals 0. J equals 0. Then we have 64 is 64 greater than 30 or 0 plus 1, which was 34. Which it is. So temp equals 64. ARRJ is going to become 34. And then ARRJ plus 1 equals 64. Which just swapped these two numbers. But we're still in this loop, so now we go here. Okay, so now it's still 64, but is 64 greater than now 25? Because 64 got moved, so 64 is just moving down the line. I see it now. As soon as I started breaking it down, I could see it. So now this becomes 25. And this becomes 64. Whoops. You see it now too?
Yeah.
Okay, so yep, so 64 stays here, greater than 12. Until it hits this one right here, where it's not true. So it stays. That's when it exits this loop, goes back in, but starts here. Except that wouldn't be good because then we'd have 3425. Okay, so let's go back in here and take a look at it again. All right, so yeah, there goes 64 down the line until it hits 90. Okay. Fails that one, goes out of that one, increases by 1, comes out of that, goes up to the top loop. Loop 1. We're at 25. Oh, I see. Loop 1 is at 25, but not the next one. The second inner loop, that's why we have to have 2 loops. The inner one starts back at 0. Because there it is. Loop 2 is at 34. Which means it should swap the 34 and 25. Which means now 34 is going to travel down the line until it gets correct. Now I see it. I love Python Tutor. Okay, so now I can just swing this over to the end. Okay. Oh, that was a tough one. Okay, so
Yeah, I'm still trying to work it out on like in my head because I'm like, yeah, this is like
I can see it now. Okay, so let me try and do it again, but in a different way. So a list of years that are out of order. Go into loop 1, starting from, actually, let's go back to your nickels. I like your nickels better. Given a pile of nickels, different years, out of order. Go through each nickel from top to bottom. Checking each one. No, hold on, let me, or out of order. Okay. Then we're going to create a loop to check each one. Top to bottom. Create a second loop. Move the same way, but have if statement if the top nickel is older, no, be a bigger year, right? We want the younger years. No, we want if the top nickel is younger than the next one, swap them. Top nickel is no longer the nickel. And I don't really know how else to describe that because I can see what it's doing, but I don't know how else to describe that one.
Oh. Oh man, this is tough. Yeah, for sure. Um, hmm. I'm not really sure how to describe the inner for loop. I feel like it's like tricky.
I think I just did. So you're focusing on the first nickel and getting it into place amongst the other nickels each time you restart the second loop. Does that make more sense?
Yeah. Um,
Because it was that first number that kept moving each time. The first loop was just to say we're going to repeat the second loop 7 times. That's all the first loop I think is doing.
so like is another way you can say that, like is another way you can also say that is like for each like item, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to um go over the items a multiple of the length of our current items that we have, or
Kind of. Yeah, we're kind
is
of,
that's too weird?
it kind of sounds like that. It sounds like we're kind of making sure that we go through it so many times.
Yeah, because like my thought process about like around it was like if we have like for example like 7 items, right, and we're trying to rearrange it from smallest to largest, then for each item in our list we would pick that item and then go over our list like 7 times to rearrange for that first smallest. And then for the second item, we would go over it like 7 times to rearrange for that second smallest. And then keep on doing like that 7 times for like over and over again until we got to the last item in the list. But I don't know, maybe that's weird.
No, I think that sounds right. Well, that was a tough one I mean, I knew what it was supposed to be doing, but I couldn't see that one for some reason. That was a good one though.
So, this is the bubble sort challenge, right?
What's that?
This is like the a bubble sort challenge.
Yep, this one was the bubble sort. Yep.
We're doing this like a couple of months ago.
What time we got? Oh wow, that almost took us the entire hour.
That's okay.
Yeah, worth it.
Uh, okay. Given a pile of nickels in a different years and orders, items to check from top to bottom. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense to me. Kind of the more complex you go, though, like I feel like the harder it is to like put in regular English.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's good practice to break it down. Um, and like I really liked your idea of the nickels. I know using analogies has always worked best for me anyways, but it was just that was nice to just kind of throw those nickels in there.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, oh, what is the easiest way I could describe this? And you're saying like, we're gonna be telling this to non-developers. So I'm like, man, I gotta like kind of like make it as easy as like possible so they could like get it. I feel like every time I'm gonna talk to someone about like a problem like this, I always get in my head like, oh, they must be a developer, but they're not.
Not necessarily, yeah. And we've been told, or I've heard that it's one of the biggest complaints by hiring managers is that um boot camp grads can solve the algos, but they can't explain the algos. Like like in this case, why did we have to have two loops? Well, the two
Yeah.
loops was so that we could keep checking the list to make sure that we've got it in order. Or like,
Okay.
why do we have the if statement? Why is there a temp? There's a reason for each of those pieces. It's just a matter of why was it there?
So I mean, like I say, you wrote it out, but I also want to describe it in my own words because like I feel like I want to take the challenge of saying it in my own words without looking at your code.
Yeah,
Because,
absolutely.
you know, yeah. So I want your honest feedback to like see how I sound describing this.
Okay.
So if I had to describe it in my own words, I would say um we have from starting from line 5, we have a set of instructions uh that we are using um to assign our nickels by date, starting from the um youngest date, I would believe.
I think it'd be oldest
To
because 1900
oldest, right?
than 2000.
Okay, yeah. So it would be oldest date to youngest.
Uh-huh.
So starting from line 6, we are getting the length of the number of nickels from that have each date on it.
Yeah.
So we have a list of nickels, and what we're doing is we are currently looking through our list of nickels, starting with our first nickel, and we are going over each nickel one by one to we're going through our first list, and what we're gonna do is for each nickel in our list, we're gonna iterate through each nickel an amount of times the length of our list. So for our first nickel, we would iterate it like the whole list once, and we would see which is the oldest nickel. And then for the second nickel, we would iterate the list again, and for the third item until we've iterated each item n amount of times
Yeah, that sounded good
until
to me.
we yeah, and then we would compare each nickel, and then we would say if the nickel that is currently being compared to is greater than the nickel that is next in our list, then um that item would be replaced with the next nickel in our list. So our current nickel would be replaced with the next nickel, and the next nickel would be replaced with the current nickel, and we would iterate our list over and over again, doing that same steps until we have got it, till we've gotten a sorted list.
Yeah, no, I like it. It sounded good.
Man, that is harder to say than like that is really harder to say than like in English than coding. Oh man, that was a mouthful. Like,
Yeah, but it also, I mean, you understand what it's doing by doing that. So, I mean, saying a for loop and an if statement, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways we can Englishize it. We can say that, okay, this is showing a for loop, so meaning it's going to go through each item, and then line 9's another for loop, going through each item again, just looking at different parts of it or something to that effect. So it, depending on who we get or who you get for an interview, can also depend on how much Englishizing you have to do.
yeah,
But my theory is if you can fully Englishize it for a non-developer, then you truly understand what it's doing. Because like you said, that was a mouthful, and trying to find the right English words to use, so to speak, isn't always easy.
yeah. I feel like you could have just made that simpler, but just by saying, "Hey, we're just gonna go over the same list like 8 times and just sort it out." I don't know why I couldn't just say that. Like in my head, like I'm like,
Well, because
it's just
I mean that's what we're doing, but
yeah,
that's what we're doing at a very high level. That's not explaining what the algo itself is doing. That's explaining it at an extremely high level. Like, here's the list, end result is in order. You know, it's not explaining the bits
yeah.
and pieces of it. So,
Okay, yeah. So we just gotta be like as much detail as possible, like in plain English.
mhm.
Okay, got it. Got it. But that was good practice. So
The other one that was for tonight was the Fibonacci sequence.
oh, the Fibonacci. Yeah, we did that the other day. Oh, that's so much fun. I think I think I can explain that in plain English without even looking at the code because I've done that one so many times.
Yeah, this one's not too bad. So I'll save that for Tuesday. And then I've got binary search, merge sort, quick sort, and depth first, hash tables, and
Ooh,
shortest path.
some of those I've still yet to touch upon,
It
especially
should
hash
be-
tables.
yeah, it should be interesting.
You know, I think we touched on hash. That's just dictionaries in JavaScript, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. Then I touched on.
Yeah. It's gonna it should be fun though. I think it'll be all right.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Where to go?
Well, I
There
gotta
it is.
get to other stuff as well. So I will see you around Tuesday,
Yes.
hopefully.
Yep, sounds good.
All right, take care.
All right, you too.